Hey everyone, welcome back to the latest of my Screaming into the Void videos. Although to tell you the truth, Rachel's already in bed, so I'm probably not going to be screaming at all. But I am angry. Last week I got to go out 3 nights in a row, school nights even. What, you ask, could possibly drive my decrepit ass out of the house? Non-COMM, that's what. Non-COMM is the best of what public radio has to offer. If you don't know about WXPN in here in Philly, you really need to go check them out. Across 3 nights, I got to see a lot of emerging acts like Freako, Arlo Parks, Freak Slug, and the Animeros. Artists entering their prime like Kevin Morby and Molly Tuttle. There were also, how do we say, fading acts like the Hooters, Broken Social Scene, and Death Cab for Cutie. For those of you 30 and younger, Death Cab was the band who showed us all that Seattle music was more than grunge, which had died like 4 to 5 years before they hit the scene. For younger folks like my kids and most of my coworkers, if you don't know who the Hooters are, just go up to your mom and say you can't get to heaven on the Frankfurt L, and I guarantee she'll know the rest of that line. Looking around the room all 3 nights, one thing was obvious. Sure, there were some 20 and 30 and 40 somethings sprinkled throughout the audience. By far the biggest group was the 55 plus community. No shade to those folks. Hell, I'm one of them. But I just can't get past the disconnect between the non-headliner acts on stage like Buffalo Traffic Jam and Freak Slug, who are all in their early 20s, maybe early 30s, and the audience they were playing to basically being old enough to be their parents or their grandparents. That bothers me. And it points to what I want to rant about this week. Those younger acts and audiences that they're trying to appeal to are yet another victim of the oligarchic hellscape we call America. And I'm about to prove it to you with stats. One of the things that dawned on me after I started thinking about the disconnect between the age of the audience at non-comm and the performers on stage is just the ticket prices. I dropped $320 to see 3 nights worth of music, and that's a great deal for me, right? But for a kid in college or a kid just starting out their career, and I say kids, I mean adults. Sorry about that, Sam, and Iz and Larry. One of the things that becomes apparent is that the sheer cost of getting into the show is exuberant. And this article walks us through what those ticket prices would have been. What I want you to remember is the audience that was at non-comm were mostly 60, 70, and above year old people. And no shade to them. I loved seeing people my age out having fun. I like seeing everybody out. They're all great supporters of public radio and music, but they're in a position in their life where they can afford these things. So let's just take a quick look through here and see what Background Animal has to say, right? So if we go through here, we're going to skip over Elvis Presley because he was a piece of shit. The Beatles, right? The Boomers' gods. To see the Beatles at the height of their career in 1966 would have just cost you $53. I mean, shit, not too expensive, right? You could go see what boomers think are the greatest band ever for $50. Pretty reasonable price. Get into what my parents were listening to in the 70s, right? You can get to Queen. Ticket for a Queen performance, adjusted for inflation, is $41. Still, I mean, that's cheaper than the Beatles because they weren't the Beatles, right? They were better. But $41, easily affordable by almost anyone who would have an interest in going to see a show. But then we're going to start to see a change coming up here. Nirvana, this is in my wheelhouse, right? To go see Nirvana, and I remember going to see him, and I dropped maybe $40 to go see him. Here, average ticket price for Nirvana and adjusted for inflation is $37. That's 33 years ago now. In 2002, Eminem, $59. Kanye West, before he went nuts in 2013 at the peak of his songwriting abilities, right? $108. You can see the price starting to creep up, but it wasn't as exuberant as it turned out to be for 20 somethings and 30 somethings now. And then the big jump comes in 23, right? Taylor Swift. We all love Taylor Swift. Do you get that, Iz? I love Taylor Swift. And I have to thank Iz for introducing me to her. But when Taylor Swift's Eras tour started, I know we were coming out of the pandemic, but the average ticket price was $260. And Isabel's mom was able to get her tickets to go see her when she came to Philly. That $260 bought you nosebleed seats. So the audience is limited by virtue of just the ticket prices alone. Now, the fact that ticket prices are so high has been covered in a lot of other places. We know it's the Ticketmaster, it's Live Nation, it's that consolidation of venue rentals and ticketing and all of the other things that go into making it basically a monopoly, and that's why they can drive up their ticket prices so high. But one of the other things I want you to look at is this guy, Daniel Ek, another fucking billionaire who has no talent and is ripping off the artists who make him money. If you don't know who Daniel Ek is, he's a Swedish businessman and technologist. He's the founder and executive chairman of Spotify. Spotify, you guys have heard of that, right? Well, let's look at what Spotify does. Let's look at what Daniel Ek earned from Spotify. On Music Tech, they did a story about this guy. Daniel Ek earned more from Spotify in the past 12 months than any artist has ever earned on the platform. Is he making music? No. What is its technological savvy? What's his technical savvy? He's not a developer, right? He's just another fucking con man. He has zero streams. I mean, he's just a piece of shit. And if we go down here, we can read that Spotify CEO and founder Daniel Ek earned more money from the platform in the past 12 months than any other artist ever has. Reports royalties accountant Hunter Giles, and Ek's closest executives aren't far behind him either. Taylor Swift, Drake, Billie Eilish, Ed Sheeran, and literally any other megastar you can think of reportedly haven't been able to top the $345 million Ek has roughly made since last year. The article goes on to quote Giles, and he says that I personally don't think Ek and the gang are good or bad as people, he says. And the point of this isn't to shame them. The bad actor here, in my humble opinion, is the same as always. Misaligned incentives that fail to appropriately share the wealth amongst stakeholders, aka late capitalism. These people are just doing a good job of hitting the misaligned marks, and I don't feel it's true or useful to think of them as evil geniuses out to steal money from artists. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. A little further in the article, we read that Daniel Ek takes the top spot, cashing out at a total of $345 million in shares since July 2023, which is equal to gaining 115 billion streams, hypothetically making him the number one top streamed artist of all time on the platform. As a comparison, Statista reports that Taylor Swift is the most streamed real artist on Spotify, with 76 billion all-time streams as of April 2020. That's insane. Regardless of what you think of Taylor Swift, she's the one making the music, and she doesn't even come close to what this technical hack has done. Daniel Ek and the asshats over at Ticketmaster and Live Nation are just a symptom of the problem we all know exists. As of 2025, the United States has between 813 and 867 billionaires, depending on the tracking source, making it the country with the largest billionaire population in the world. Together, they hold over $6.2 trillion in combined wealth. This reflects how the U.S. economy continues to mint new fortunes rapidly, especially in tech and finance, while deepening wealth concentration in fewer hands. And just look at this chart. I'm sorry for the disjointedness of today's recording. I'm a little tired. I'm old, but music is something that's important to me, and I thought this was a good uh, look into what is happening in one corner of our culture that is essentially destroying that culture. When bands made up of 20-year-olds can't play to other 20-year-olds, and instead their target audience are basically their grandparents and great grandparents, that's not sustainable. So I have a modest proposal. Once we kick this asshat out of office and we get rid of all those Republicans clutching their pearls and whatever else, I say we go to these 900 or so billionaires that exist in the United States and we give them a stark choice. A, you can keep $1 billion. The rest of it gets taxed at 99% into perpetuity. Or we just excise you like the cancer that you are on everything that is America. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate your guys' feedback. I hope everything works out for us in the end. I don't have too much left on this planet, but my kids do, so I have a vested interest in making this thing work. I'll talk to you guys next week.